All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're gonna go ahead and call this Opioid Task Force Committee to order. I'll start with a motion to approve the agenda that you got in front of you. Do I have a motion?
So motion.
I have a motion from Mark.
Second?
I have a second from Commissioner Blaylock. Any comments or questions on the motion from the board? Does the public have any comments or questions on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passed unanimously. Let's go ahead and do roll call. We've got Mark, who just took a bite. He's representing the
Mark
city of
Lewis.
Newberry. We have Commissioner Penny,
Yeah.
right? We have
Yeah.
Commissioner Blaylock is here. We've got Commissioner Williams from the city of Micanopy.
Hey, DD.
Yeah. And Ms. Altop is helping with the stuff in the back. Am I missing anybody? So at this point, we now have everybody but High Springs. High Springs appointed a commissioner who was unsuccessful in her campaign for a rebid. So they're going to reappoint someone. They could still appoint her because in the interlocal agreement, you guys can appoint a commissioner, you can appoint a citizen who's really passionate about this. So High Springs knows they need to get us somebody, but they'll get us that person pretty quick. So we actually, I think we have a full board. We've got Newberry, Alachua, Archer, Micanopy. We're just waiting on High Springs. Can I get a motion to approve the January 4 minutes, which I believe are the second page there? That was our first meeting where we just kind of talked about what our goal and purpose here is, which is pretty much what when the Newberry Opioid Task Force came to each of your individual boards, presented to you guys, the idea was to create this board and then empower this board to make the decisions about how best to move forward, and how we're gonna do that.
I make a motion that we accept the minutes
All
from the
right.
last meeting.
I got a motion from Archer.
I'll second.
I got a second from Alachua. Any comments or questions on the motion on the floor? Public comments or questions on the motion on the floor? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Motion passes unanimously. And I think that takes us to maybe one of the more important agenda items today is the status of the interlocal agreements. And I guess, has it come back to you guys? I know we've got we've got a signature from Newberry, a signature from Archer. Have you guys, I know y'all voted on it, but I don't know if your manager has signed off on it yet.
I'm pretty sure
Okay.
I'm pretty sure we have.
Okay,
I can find out though.
Do you have it?
So I have not been told that the trust has received it yet.
Okay,
From the city of Alachua,
I don't
or
know
from anybody?
from anyone. I can follow up tomorrow with Marcia and find out, but the last, that was a month ago when we had our last meeting.
and I swear I saw an email that came through
Okay.
that had everybody's signature. Commissioner Williams, do you know if Micanopy has had a chance to actually sign the interlocal agreement yet?
No, sir, we haven't. We need to
Okay.
sign.
So and this is my fault, the interlocal agreements, we thought that this would be easier if we did a digital copy and everybody electronically sign it. And so it's ended up being a little bit more cumbersome. But I believe that the majority of everyone has seen it. If we could follow up on that, cause I know I'm never gonna find this email, but I
was gonna start looking too.
It'll be,
Yeah, it's easier for me to just ask Marcia tomorrow.
Yeah, and what's your attorney's name?
Bob.
Bob, because that's who, I thought I saw an email from Bob saying,
Okay.
it's all good, and and I looked at the pages, there was somebody that hadn't signed it, but I can't remember which city hadn't as of yet. But one of the nice things about the structure here is that now we've got, everybody just go back and ask your city manager, hey, have you signed that? And so we can finalize that. I'll jump in on this bullet point because the chair of the Newberry Task Force went and had a meeting with Gainesville to see if Gainesville wanted to join us and be a part of it, and she reported back that it was a really positive meeting, and that she anticipates we're gonna get her on their agenda to go and pitch. And we are gonna ask Gainesville to come in at a higher level because they have, this kind of all started based on the ARPA money, which identified opioids. And of course, the smaller municipalities got a smaller amount of ARPA money. Gainesville and the county got a larger amount of ARPA money. And I know that some of the Gainesville commissioners, or I'm sorry, some of the Alachua County commissioners, they've all told us that they're gonna support us when we come and ask them for money, but they asked us if we would include Gainesville, and we never really had an objection to including Gainesville. It was just, it started as a way for the smaller cities to band together and do something. But really, if we create, radio ads or social media ads, Gainesville, they're gonna go to Gainesville too, so it would be great if Gainesville was a part of this as well. So if everybody can just kind of check on the status, and we'll do it as well. I know that Newberry has signed it, and I know that, Archer has signed it. And I wanna say High Springs has signed it as well, but I just can't remember that when I was looking at it. If I ever do anything like this again, it will be one interlocal with each city independently, and it won't be one that we're trying to track down and sign and then find out who's got it and get it on somebody else. Any questions about the interlocal and those kinds of things? We do wanna we wanna start getting that money to the trust, because the ask for Gainesville is to match that amount, and then the ask of the county is to also match that amount. So if we're successful on that, that should give us somewhere in the neighborhood of 150,000, which I think is enough to get us started with some sort of countywide campaign, and figure out how to best do that. Did you want me to go over Sunshine?
Sure, there are a couple things, Marcia told me to add, but yes, please do.
As I think so. So,
Did you wanna join us up here?
I'm good,
well, it's good to see you.
thank you.
We've spent a lot of time in Archer
I
lately.
know.
Yeah. Well, most of you guys are elected officials, so you're well aware of sunshine laws. Mark is on the Newberry Opioid Task Force. He's our accountant. He's not an elected official, but he's pretty well versed in sunshine laws as well. Anytime you're dealing with public dollars and we have to vote, we can't, now I'm a non-voting chair, so I'm here just to be the labor, right? So you guys put me to work. So if you have questions, you can talk to me, you can talk to the trust, but technically you can't talk to each other outside of the public realm. So, if you have questions, you can send them in emails and the trust has agreed to be is the core center. So they're going to help us organize these meetings, put forth these wonderful agendas, and make sure we're on topic and we're moving forward. Sending out the emails to make sure we know where we're meeting and all that kind of stuff. And they have agreed to be the fiduciary agents, so will all give our donations to the trust, and then the trust will then write the check back out to whoever or whatever company, person you guys decide to hire to implement whatever plan you guys decide to plan. But they cannot do the actual work themselves, right? So they've agreed to help us organize the meetings, and if we decide to hire a person or a company and we RFP that out, they'll help us look through that company, rank the companies based on the qualifications that you guys tell them you're looking for, and then they'll write the checks. But at that point, it will be more our job to and they'll make sure that the company is following the contract, obviously, but, our job will be to go out and figure out, what that looks like. And it's difficult to have this conversation. We haven't made any of these decisions yet, right? So, all through that process, we would need to adhere to sunshine. I don't anticipate there being a whole lot that we would need to talk about outside of these meetings anyway. But, as you all know, perception becomes reality for elected officials. So if people see you together, there's nothing saying that you can't be together. You just can't talk about, well, hey, I like that company better, or who are you voting for? Those kinds of things I don't think we should have that company. I think we should do this. You can have that conversation with me because I don't vote, right? I won't have a vote. Any questions about that? Anything you wanna add?
I'll add to that, when the committee begins to, think about the route they wanna take as it relates to, an advertising firm, the trust has the authority to do the procurement or, identify, advertising agencies that have had a state term contract. And so we'll be able to bring you all those options for you all to consider. We do have the, knowledge of the procurement process and how that works and can help with putting together a review team to ensure that all those, procedures are being followed, appropriately. Marcia did ask me or wanted me to inform you that, as you guys are deciding about whether you're gonna have a consultant or not, she's definitely willing to continue the role to help with the public notice for these meetings, helping to schedule them, helping to, get the minutes and meeting notices out until you guys have decided what route you wanna take as it relates to a consultant to help you all with that. But we're definitely on board with, being a fiscal agent, making sure that the procurement process runs smoothly and, administering any checks that need to go to, the ad firm for, the opioid advertising.
Ms. Williams, are you able to hear all of that coming through okay?
Yes.
Okay, all right, wonderful. As far as, while we're on meeting procedures, at the last meeting, we had, we didn't have everybody there, but we had thought once a month is a good ratio. And we had pitched the idea of moving around to different cities so that we can get familiar with everybody's community. Now that we have everybody here, let's start with, how does once a month sound as a reasonable, kind of keep us on target, but not becoming overburdened? Does that sound good, or do we think we need once every 2 weeks, once every 2 months, once a month, good?
Me, myself, I think once a month is good.
Okay,
I would say once a month, I don't think it needs to be every 2 weeks.
I think that becomes a little bit burdensome for everybody. And I don't know that we would have enough to talk about in a 2-week period. You know, ideally, once we figure out the direction, and then it kind of come on an autopilot, and we're just meeting to make sure that whoever we're paying to do whatever we're paying them to do is doing it, you know, and figure out how we're gonna interface with that, in order to make sure that, we're getting the most bang for the buck. Commissioner Williams, are you comfortable with once a month?
Yes, sir. That's perfect.
How about the idea of bouncing around to different cities? The trust has volunteered to use as a central location, so that is an option. Of course, we can Zoom as well, so if meeting live becomes hard, we could just do straight Zooms. But I think part of what we're trying to do with this is raise awareness of each other's communities and become familiar with each other's communities and be seen in each other's communities doing this. So I like the idea of bouncing around, but I also know that sometimes that gets a little tough. So do we want to try to bounce around at least until we get to, we've got 5 cities in it now, we can make the trip all the way around to each 5 city, and then we can reassess at that point and say, okay, let's meet at the trust, or let's just do Zoom. What do we think?
Oh, my opinion, I think it's a good idea to bounce around, because, you know, as far as trust, no offense, as far as location, I would say cities like Archer, High Springs, Newberry, it takes quite a while to get to that location. So I think it's fair for everybody, so everybody has a short commute every now and then, so I think it's a good idea to bounce around.
Okay.
Agreed.
You like to bounce, Commissioner Williams?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm fine with that too.
Now, I don't want anybody to think, just because Commissioner Penny has set the bar high by feeding us, we go to any other city, there's no expectation. But I do like cheeseburgers. Does anybody want to volunteer their community for the next meeting? I'm
We
skipping
can
over.
host in Micanopy. That's fine.
Okay. We all good with going to Micanopy next?
Yes.
Sounds good.
All right. So that will be March 8th. And how do we feel about the time? 5:30? Let me make sure. I'm in tennis season, so I gotta see if I'm gonna,
You say tennis season?
tennis season, yeah, the tennis
Okay,
coach
I thought
there.
you said
Yeah.
something else, I was like, wait, let me make sure.
Barbecue over there.
March 8th is perfect.
Oh, it is good.
All right.
It is
Are we
nice.
good with 5:30?
Yes, but I'm double checking one thing. I'm sorry, I have to double check one thing. really quick.
Do you guys bring,
Oh, sorry.
how would that look like if we?
I think these are archers. These are-
Okay, March 8th is fine. 5:30 is perfect.
So 5:30 is good?
Yes, sir.
Okay, 5:30 good with everybody else? Commissioner Williams, do you guys have the ability to Zoom in your city hall?
Yes, we can set it up.
All right. I'm adding it to my calendar right now. March 8th, Micanopy, 5:30, and that will be in your city hall?
Yes, sir.
Okay, wonderful. And I'll reach out to High Springs and find out if they've got a tentative person. If they're thinking about two, I would suggest break both of them, just so we can introduce and they can start to get the idea of what's going on. If that's all right with everybody. Hopefully we'll have somebody identified before that March 8th meeting.
And are you, for these meetings, are we doing, it looks like the first Wednesday or the second Wednesday of the month? Is that
Was
what?
it the first, which one?
This one is the second one, but the first one was the January 4th was the first Wednesday of the month, so.
I think the group had decided the second Wednesday.
So it's, okay. So the next one would be
And most of our cities, Newberry meets on Mondays, you guys meet on
Monday.
Mondays, you guys meet on, y'all meet on Mondays?
The second Monday of every month.
It must be High Spring meets on Thursdays.
I'm pretty sure High Springs is on Thursdays.
Yeah, so Thursdays were tough. So we thought that, Wednesdays can conflict with church night, but one a month. And, generally for that reason, most people's Mondays are open. So,
Okay.
okay. Well, let's go to item 5 on the agenda, which is the awareness campaign discussion. We do have 4 of the 5 cities here. Again, we may be adding a 6th city. High Springs, Hawthorne, and Waldo have both issued resolutions of support. They just had already spent the money, they couldn't find it in their budget to put money into the pot. But we haven't talked with anybody that doesn't want to be a part of this. So we may be adding one more city, and then if the county puts money into, they would have the ability to put a person at the dais as well to, put their input in. But I think that we should, at least begin the conversation of how are we seeing this awareness campaign progress. Commissioner Penny had a great idea at the first meeting about working with the school board and trying to get students to make videos and offering up some of the money as prize money. And then, we could pick 1, 2, 3. And I can tell you that if the prize money is in the, first place is in the 1,000, 1,500 range, that you get a really good response on that, right? So if you had 1,500 for first place, maybe 750 for second and 250 for third, I think we would probably get anywhere from 5 to 15 entries, and then we would be able to use all of those videos in terms of social media awareness for relatively low cost. So I think, those are the kinds of ideas, when we talk about a company and those kinds of things, somebody has to organize and do all of this legwork, right? I think one of the things that we can absolutely do is we could partner with different businesses in our communities, and we could say, this task force will pay half, right? And if this restaurant or this mechanic shop or whatever wants to pay the other half, we can make another video and we'll partner together, and it will be, Mustang Grill stands with the county task force against adolescent opioids. And that would be a way to leverage the money, right, and make that go further. But again, that's a lot of legwork. Somebody has to go and knock and pitch. And I think that's where having somebody in each community could help out. But that's also where a company could come in and say, you know, we will provide that service. We'll go out and you know, and do those kinds of things. So, those are just ideas, but again, I want everybody on this board to know that this is your community's money. And so you guys are going to be the ones that are hashing out how we do this, because I need each and every one of you to go back to your commissions, back to your cities and say, this board is spending that money well, and they're spending that money effectively, and that money is helping out Archer, that money is helping out Alachua, that money is helping out Micanopy. And so we really need to know from you guys what works in Archer, right? What works in Micanopy? How do people get their information in Micanopy? I have no idea how people get information in Micanopy, right? I have no idea how people get information in Alachua. I know that Newberry has about 18 Facebook forums. You know? So that's how you get information out of Newberry, but nobody in Newberry reads the paper anymore. Not too many people listen to the radio anymore. So those kinds of conversations, I think it's worthwhile for us to have, so that when we do decide to hire a consultant or a firm, we can say, hey, when you're in Archer, you gotta do this. When you're in Alachua, it's gotta be this, right? So I'm gonna be quiet and let anyone else who has a thought. And we got a principal in the audience, so love to hear how we can partner with elementary schools, because I'm not sure that elementary schools would make videos, but they might star in videos, right? Those kinds of things.
Well, I do have one question that we're talking about as far as different cities, as far as with the monetary, Gainesville, and matching. Who is responsible for putting the financials together?
That's gonna be the trust.
That'll be the trust,
That'll be the trust.
as far as that, and then how often are we planning on releasing the financials? On a monthly basis, on a quarterly basis? What is the time frame as far as reporting?
So the committee, you all will be able to decide how often you want those financials presented
Okay.
to you. And once we get it could be every meeting. As money is being spent, there can be financials reported back to you all.
Okay, I appreciate that, thank you.
I have one question. Like I believe you were saying Waldo and Hawthorne did not have the funds. Now, since they didn't have the funds, are we saying that they can't be a part of this? Or they can't send a representative for their cities?
I mean, that's really, again, I would say that's y'all's call. My stance at the beginning, I felt like I needed to kind of have a firm line that if you want to have a vote at the table, you had to have money in the pot. You know, I think that for some of these things, it's gonna be really hard to differentiate, like, you know, if you guys decide we need a commercial on TV 20, well, TV 20 goes all over the county, right? So that will be a hard thing to say, well, you know, that goes, if Waldo's not in, it's still gonna play in Waldo. So I think Waldo could absolutely send a representative and participate that way. If you guys say, hey, if you have passed a resolution, you can have a seat at the table, that's, again, y'all are empowered to do that. I didn't wanna make that decision and say, okay, we've got 7 seats at the table, but 2 of them don't have any skin in the game. Do they get equal say as the communities that have skin in the game? That didn't seem quite right to me. But if y'all say that you agree that, hey, it's more about unity and working together, whether you got money or not, that's y'all's call. I mean, at the end of the day, y'all are the one has to go back and face your commissions and say, yeah, Waldo and Hawthorne do have voting seats at the table. They didn't put any money in. But I mean, maybe there could be we want their feedback, but we're not gonna target things in their community because they didn't pay for them. I mean, if we put a billboard in somebody's community and that billboard is $400 or $500 a month, then, you know, we wanna know that your dollars paid for that billboard in Archer, right? So that was kind of the thinking, but again, y'all are the voting board, I don't have a vote, so I didn't wanna make that decision ahead of time.
I have a suggestion on there as far as comment. All right, just like, for instance, if you're putting together a partnership, you got people that are investing, that have the monetary on there. Then you have partners that do not have the monetary, but they provide a heck of a lot of service. And the service itself has a value. That could be one option as far as to, if that ever comes up as an issue. If whatever type of services that they provide, what a value on it.
That's tough. I mean, I kinda feel like if they don't have the skin in the game, they would not have the same voting as us. I do think that other people in other communities might have a value, but I think that's something we just need to, I guess, decide and figure out what would be best. I would be hard to go back and say we did put a billboard in Hawthorne, but we don't necessarily gonna have a billboard in the city of Alachua at the time, because maybe depending on the money and the advertising where it goes, if, you know, I would want to be able to at least have the say for what we're doing for the people that are already into it. Because I know for us, it was a couple, commission meetings to get the yes to do this. It wasn't right away a yes for us, and I know that we talked about it, and then we were, let's do this, we need to do this.
And I should say that, you know, the trust has the right to put a voting member here at the table. They haven't done that yet, but they are fiduciary. I mean, there's value in the service that they're providing that you could put a dollar amount to. And so to Mark's point, you know, and it just hadn't really occurred to us, you know, but we could go back to Hawthorne, and I'm willing to do that, Hawthorne and Waldo, and say, hey, you know, you don't have, we know you don't have anything in the budget, but do you have a staffer that you could give us that would kind of equal it out so that it's easier for everybody on this board to justify why money got specifically spent in somewhere when they didn't put money? You say, well, you know, Hawthorne gave us, you know, somebody that was gonna help take over this service, and they were gonna do that for the next year, and that value is roughly $10,000, and so that's their skin in the game. I was thinking that if Gainesville comes on, we might ask Gainesville, because Gainesville has a whole marketing department, right? So we might ask Gainesville, now the rub there would, they'd have to answer to you guys, not the city manager, so there would be some sort of, you know, they work for you for, you know, a couple of hours a month, putting together flyers and marketing and that kind of stuff, but they work in your direction.
Right.
But that may be a way to kind of balance out those kinds of things as well. So we can make the same offer to Waldo, Hawthorne, and La Crosse that, you know.
Well, I think it is good in a sense for the community. It takes a village to raise a family. The more communities in is great. I guess for me to understand, like, if their vote would be the same as one of ours, could outweigh something like, you mentioned like newspapers. Alachua, city of Alachua, they read the newspaper.
Right.
You know, and so there's different things in all of our cities that make us unique, you know, so, I mean, I'm open, really minded to anything that we think as a unit, to be honest.
Yeah, my driving force is, and I really appreciate the floor, my driving point is, yes, as far as with the vote and all that, but at the end of the day, we're servicing the kids.
Yes.
As far as that, to try to help them. And my understanding is, Waldo, please correct me if I'm wrong, Waldo, their kids are being bused all the way to Gainesville, as far as that, but to at least try to help those kids where they're coming from. And that's why I'm putting up the option as far as with the service aspect of it. So I appreciate y'all considering that.
Commissioner Williams, you got thoughts on ways to integrate the other cities into this process, even though they didn't financially have the same commitment as the rest of the folks? I got a phone number on
Yeah,
it.
that's, but I'm not sure if it's her. It's a couple of meetings that we'd like to do.
Is the person with the phone number 4484, is that Commissioner Williams? Let's see, no. Okay. Should we wait on this issue to see if, wait for High Springs and see if Gainesville joins us to get their thoughts on? I don't wanna do anything that creates a division right off the bat, you know?
Oh,
And
absolutely.
at the end of the day, y'all are the ones that gotta go back and face your commission, so I don't have to go back and face the commission and say that, you know, we made this decision and now they're gonna have a voting seat at the table. So if you think, but you know your commissions, if you think that if they got your back on that, then that's y'all's call. If you think that they would question that, then you say, well, you know,
I think Mark said it right, at the end of the day, we're trying to service the kids, so whatever's best all the way around, I think is
you know,
important. I know that if I make the decision, I don't think we just, this is what we're gonna do, this is what we've decided to do, and, it's a year, how long is what we put in, is it a year, and then we go back again to,
they can till the money runs out.
till the money runs out?
Till the
Okay.
money runs out.
Okay, alright.
And then, I mean, I think ideally what I would love to get out of this first year is enough success that it's an easy sell to go back to everybody and say, we should continue this. If we can get some branding, and we can get some materials, and we can start to kind of figure out what's working and what's not working, then I would say that's a really successful first year. And then we can all go back to our respective commissions, maybe there's more ARPA money that comes down or something else that comes down. I mean, I think that, you know, $10,000 is a lot of money, I'm not saying that, but yeah, when cities make a commitment like this, I think they can find $10,000, to keep this going, but I know that, my board would ask, show me the success, right? Are you achieving anything, or, you know, what's going on? If I can answer that question, then $10,000 is an easy ask. If I can't answer that question, then $1 is a hard ask, right?
True.
That's very true.
So why don't we just kind of table that one point until we get everyone else up here, and that way we can all be part of it? I mean, I think it's, the last thing I would say is it's possible to also ask them for, you know, have like a sub-advisory committee, and so they're here and they give us feedback. I don't really anticipate that there's gonna be a lot of votes that are narrow here. I mean, I think that we all have a heart for the kids, and it's just gonna be about how best to do it. And I know on the Newberry Opioid Task Force, we have a structure, but at the end of the day, it's nowhere near as formal as this. We just kind of get around the table and say, you know, what works and what doesn't work, and there are people there that technically have a vote, but I mean, we never have any division, so it doesn't really, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter, but, you know, we don't have money. This board will have money, and once you have money behind it, you gotta make sure, you know, that the people who have a vote, but that would be a fairly easy thing to say, hey, you're a representative, you can be here and give us your advice, but when it comes to vote, it's gotta be the people, you know, that have a vote. So we'll just come back to that and figure that out later. Any comments from anybody in the audience on that point? I think that we should have a little bit of a conversation, and I guess this is a question. If we RFP out, is it possible to RFP a consultant and a company at the same time? Like how, because, I mean, some of these ideas, you just need a person, right, that's tasked with it. For some of these larger ideas, you need a company, but obviously a company will be more expensive than a person. And, you know, I think one of my biggest concerns is that in the first year, a bulk of the money is eaten up by the consultant or a company, and there's not a lot of money left over to actually do the work. But somebody has to design billboards, somebody has to, and all the billboards have to be branded. Like, do we need a logo for this task force? We're calling this the Opioid Task Force Committee. Do we need a name for this task force? Is it the Alaska County? So can you do both of those things at the same time, or does it have to be?
You put in your RFP exactly, and maybe you don't do an RFP, you do an invitation to bid.
That way it's
And therefore, they are telling you how they can do what it is you need to do. And if that includes, you will create a name for us, you will assign an individual to this committee as a consultant to do the following things, do the branding, you could create that so that when folks bid, they're bidding for exactly what it is you want them to do.
Okay.
All the way down, like the
All the
logo,
way
the logo
down.
colors, the everything,
Absolutely.
okay.
I mean, I think one of the benefits of having that kind of branding is I believe that there's private dollars out there that would donate to something like this once they see the level of officialness of it, right? We've not had any trouble raising money in Newberry privately on it, and that was kind of what we spent our first 6 months to a year doing, just creating a Newberry logo and that kind of detailed stuff. I like the idea of just a request for proposal, and that way, this is what we're trying to do. Anybody out there, who gets that? How does that get advertised out?
So, the trust does it a couple different ways. We are required to, send it out to our listserv. We push it out via social media platforms, we can email individuals, and other organizations with the different municipalities being a part of this. They too can share the information, through all of their listservs, different ways that the community is made aware of opportunities to, bid funds.
Okay. How does that sound to everyone?
Sounds great.
And it almost just seems like that's something we need to wait for High Springs to be on, but, if it's a request for proposal, you would need us to say, what are the 10, 15 bullet point lists of what we're looking for?
Yes.
We're looking for branding, we're looking for marketing, we're looking for organizational skills, grant writing. Is that a separate kind of a thing? Can you have somebody that comes in and also helps? Maybe it's, not grant writing so much as,
Well, what you can
Fundraising.
do is, within your, scope, you could say what's required and what's optional.
okay,
And if someone is bidding and they have that experience, that's bonus points, if you
Right.
will, for when you are, reviewing those applications.
okay,
Yeah.
okay.
I had jotted down,
Like the things you really are must have, and then things that we wish we could have.
Right.
And then you,
So if you have these things, that's great.
Yeah.
But you have to at least be able to help us brand, market. And I don't know, is organization the right word? Because, I mean, in my mind, I'm thinking, as a teacher, just logistically. How do if we want to pursue the school board idea, somebody has to call the superintendent, somebody has to meet with the superintendent, somebody has to pitch the idea. Somebody's got to meet with the kids, talk to them about it, right? That's daytime work, right? We're all already at work, so somebody's got to be there to, kind of do that. And they also have to be here, right? They have to agree to be at these meetings so that we can give them that kind of direction, make sure they understand the vision. So that when they go and meet with the superintendent, they're saying, okay, I'm representative of whatever our name ends up being. We want kids to make, short 60-second, YouTube videos that help, educate their peers on the dangers and raise awareness. And we're gonna give the first place winner $1,500, right? And then we have to figure out a calendar and push all that, so.
that's right, so you would create a scope, for the, invitation. And within that scope, you would detail exactly the type of, activities and, outcomes that you are looking for, so that the, organization that is applying for this, they know exactly, how to respond. And you can also, require them to, detail their experience. So within their application, you understand the type of activities and projects they've done before, and you have you can make an informed decision.
So we would work with you on those bullets and that scope and those things, and you push that out. Whoever responds will respond and how they respond, and they respond to you,
They respond to us.
and then you rank them.
Well, our policies state that it can be volunteers, it can be trust staff.
Okay,
And what we've done is we try to find volunteers that have that expertise, so that when they are looking at these types of applications, they've seen them before.
right.
And they know what they're looking for, they know the jargon, they know, the language to look for with a firm that has the right experience.
And so you would form that committee, rank, and then you would present to us and say, okay, this firm, this person got our number one rank. Then you guys would look at that presentation, and the number one would come and make a presentation, say, hey, I'm
They
here,
could.
if you wanted to.
They absolutely could. It could be a part of the scoring also, that, they come in and present, you know, whatever it is we want them to present, and that committee could score. The committee could be you all, if that's what you all wanted, so those were decisions that you guys can make.
And then you say, yeah, we like number one, or, let's ask number two to come in and present, that kind of thing. So the next meeting hopefully should be diving into that kind of nuts and bolts, like what is the scope, what are the bullet points? Or do you think that you got kind of an idea and you wanna draft up something for us to look at? Or do we need more of a conversation?
Let me well, I have quite a few things that I jotted down between the last meeting and today's meeting. I need to, share this with our communications manager. He would be your direct contact with his background and leading this RFP. So we could begin to, put a scope together that potentially you all could start reviewing at the next meeting. I have to go back and report it all to Marshall.
Okay. Does Alachua have a marketing department? Put out some pretty cool little videos there.
They use, no, not internally, we use, oh my gosh, Joe Hancock, what's, I can't think of the name, Motsy
I know what
or
you're talking about,
Motsy,
yeah.
that's the one that we've used, and then.
But that's a direct consultant, he doesn't work,
Correct.
he's not an employee of Alachua. So we've consulted with people before, but we don't have a PR person, a marketing person.
Our current city manager, that's what he did before.
Yeah. Okay, well, are we comfortable with, so at the next meeting, we'll think about what are the things that we want in the scope, what are the kinds of things? Is there any ideas, we talked a little bit, and these are just like example ideas, billboards, social media ads, school, working with the school. I think I love the school ideas.
I
'cause
am all for the school. I think it's great.
Yeah.
Anything we can do to connect with kids that could even be mentors of other kids to somehow do something, I think is.
And I think it's important to know that the data that started all this came from the Health Promotions and Wellness, which is a federally, state, and locally funded organization that their whole mission is just collecting data on what drugs kids are taking. And so in 2018, we found out that Alachua County had the second highest rate of adolescent opioid addiction, that kids were experimenting with opioids as early as 5th grade, that they were addicted by the time they were in 6th or 7th grade. Alachua County also has the highest rate of adolescent suicide. So when we're thinking about awareness, I think those are the kinds of things that we need to figure out. The reason that Newberry's pot went to pay for Rad Kids is a program that works within elementary schools that teaches kids how to recognize dangerous situations, but also teaches them how to respond to dangerous situations. It's the only program in the country that does both of those things. So it's not a recognize a dangerous situation and run away, because sometimes you can't run away. So it's teach them how to assess the situation. And the reason that Newberry paid for that class to start spreading that class around the elementary schools was because when we tried to talk to parents about opioid use in 5th grade, they did not like that, right? They pushed back and said, no, my kid's in 5th grade, what are you talking about? They don't do that, right? That's a high school issue. So Rad Kids doesn't necessarily ever use the word opioids or drugs. It's a holistic approach at teaching kids how to recognize. So it addresses bullying, it addresses mental health, it addresses kidnapping, rape, sexual abuse, and drugs without ever necessarily specifically saying those things. And parents were much more comfortable. Welcome in, Mayor.
Thank you.
Parents were much more comfortable. Come on up, you can sit with us. We're just working. Yeah.
You sure
This is
you want me?
You're the mayor, right? Yeah.
Hello. Happy Wednesday.
Thank you.
Mayor Bailey, have you met Mark Modis?
I have not.
He is Newberry's representative on this, and this is Commissioner Blaylock from the city of Alachua. This is Mayor Bailey.
Hello.
Mayor here in Archer.
Nice to meet you. Same to you.
All right, and you know Christie? No?
I don't think we've met. I'm Christy Goldwire from the Children's Trust.
I don't think so. Hello.
Nice to meet you.
I have to touch you later.
Okay.
So, you know, we were just talking about kind of the issue that brought us together. You know, if the idea is awareness, we have to answer who needs the awareness. Because it can't be high school kids, because they're either already aware and not, or they're already addicted. You know, I think in Newberry, I think I have a lot of elderly residents that are raising the kids again, right? And so they're not necessarily counting the pills, right? So I think we should target people that, you know, are raising grandkids, raising nieces and nephews. You know, talking about locking the medicine cabinet. I mean, I was talking with an officer in Newberry, and middle school kids will hire elementary school kids to steal the pills. And the middle school kid will give the elementary school kid $5 for every pill that they're able to get their hands on, and then turn around and sell it for $20 on the street, or use it in the parties or whatever they're doing. So, you know, somehow the awareness has to be that, so that we're teaching people that, yeah, that, you know, how old are they in fifth grade now? Is it
10.
10? Can't do the math there, so that,
long ago, right?
yeah, that 10-year-old that you would never think is doing this may be a central part of a whole drug ring of getting these pills out of grandma's medicine cabinet and onto the street. And that's a tough, I've not had a lot of luck having that conversation directly with parents. So figuring out how do you go about raising that kind of awareness to address those kinds of things is tough, right? But, you know, I think we have found in Newberry that it's really hard to have this conversation about awareness as separate from treatment, right? We will never have enough money to help Alachua County get all the treatment facilities that they need. Vista and Meridian and all of those places are overwhelmed. You know, the only way you can get in there is if you're Baker acted at this point. The beds are booked up. So, but we have found when you start talking about this, most people think that our goal is to treat the addict, to try to save the addict. That's an honorable goal. I know nobody's saying it's against that, but I'm trying to prevent the addiction from ever happening in the first place. That's my goal. So I want to get into the parents' minds and the grandparents' minds, and get into the elementary school kids' head somehow that pill is just as dangerous as the marijuana or the cocaine or the crack. I mean, President Biden ended the State of the Union last night with the fentanyl and opioid crisis, that we've got to address this, we got to figure it out.
Can I expand something on that? I think what you were saying is really, really good. Over at Santa Fe College, I teach over there full-time. I'm on the student conduct board, and also this is the second year that they're doing the Achieve mentoring program. And basically what that is helping them transition from high school into the college. Question I have, since we're saying, you know, it's primarily for fifth grade, that sort of thing, would there be something to possibly on the scope or whatever that have a similar mentoring, as far as teachers perhaps volunteering, as far as to be mentoring, bringing in the students from elementary to middle school, and maybe perhaps that be part of the awareness gap right there? Is that a feasible possibility
I
or
think
no?
anything's a possibility. I think that talking, if we can figure out, consulting our firm, working with the school board about what is possible, you know, in terms of mentorships and how to get into the classrooms.
Yeah.
Because I can, you know, from personal experience, I can tell you it's virtually impossible to get into the schools without the superintendent on your side. The
Right.
superintendent can send an email to the principal, they can send an email to teachers, and the doors will open up. But trying to work individually on school is just really, really tough. Not that everybody doesn't have a great heart and want to help,
Right.
but without the knowing that the superintendent has put a stamp of approval on it, it just gets a little bit, you know, liability, and I don't really understand what's going on, and teachers are already overwhelmed, and, you know, there's a long line of folks that are trying to get into the schools, so.
I got you.
And without the superintendent, so I think we just have to keep talking about that. I was thinking when you were talking, you know, would it be possible, I don't know what Santa Fe has, but Santa Fe or UF has to have like a marketing college, right, branding college?
About that, yeah.
I wonder if we could reach out and say, hey, we've got this RFP, would you guys,
Well, especially with Santa Fe College having the academy now, starting up as far as charter schools, that could be very good
that might be a way
possibility.
to save a lot of money and say,
Absolutely.
we'll work with a couple of professors, and the professors will use their students to do these kinds of things. It would be a little more legwork on our part of coordinating it, because the one thing I like about hiring a company or a person, they're paid. Here's your job, go do it. And then it's done, and then we just meet and make sure they're doing what we told them to do. Anything less than that is more work on us to meet with them, go to their classrooms, those kind of things. So we may just wanna think about, you know, how much time we each have to do those kinds of things, because it can get expensive, but it also, you know, I do a lot of things by volunteers, and that's tough, you know? Especially if it is, you know, we're trying to do a duration of a year, you know, it might just be better just to pay somebody and just say, this is your job, you're being paid, you go do it, than trying to organize and hold together. But you know, when you were talking about Santa Fe, I was like, man, they gotta have like a whole bunch of kids that this is the job they're trying to do, this would be a great way to
Yeah.
get some experience. So I don't think we should abandon that, but let it simmer.
I mean, my brain's simmering the whole time, like different
Yeah.
things. I mean, I know the age group, you mentioned the high school, but, I mean, there's a big shift from fourth grade, end of fourth grade year, going into fifth grade. I mean, I see it every day. They change, big change from fourth to fifth grade. And then from fifth grade to sixth grade, and then pretty much, I mean, I've even raising all my kids, but by seventh grade, you've got to be, I mean, they really need to be aware. I'm feeling like end of fourth grade, going into fifth grade to the end of sixth grade, that's I think our area to, if we're gonna target in the schools, that is the age that we really need to hone in on.
Well, you are so spot on, because before coming up here, I used to be the director for accounting for Broward County School Board. And it was amazing coming up, and we were the sixth largest school in the nation. I will never forget the day when my kids had their first day at the middle school. My son was 7, and in the 7th grade, my daughter was 8th grade. Their biggest thing that they liked, they were able to use their school lockers. Because in Broward County, you weren't allowed to use the lockers, because that's where all the drugs and weapons were hidden. And it was like, well, if you knew that was a problem, why would you not remove that out of the schools? And come to find out, it was not cost productive, was why they got that there. So you're exactly right as far as that area. Yeah.
They're still very influential at that age, you know? I mean,
Yeah.
some fourth graders are, you know, we all know, further advanced they get it, and then some aren't, but you can, I mean, I see it just helping with buses and things like that. It's, you know, they really, they talk back, and they're just ready to figure it out on their own, and then by the time they're in 7th grade, you really can't hone them back in. And then they hit high school, we all know what happens there, you know? So, you know, but.
Well, I mean, we get, I don't even know what time it is, but, we've been here an hour already.
You were just waiting.
Yeah.
And he likes the videos, because I went to Newberry's homecoming, whatever you call that thing, and
Yeah.
that's all your thing with videos. So
Yeah,
that's why he likes the
videos.
video. I'm just gonna tell you right now, he's got some good kids with a lot of great use of videos.
They are
So
good at it.
they really are.
So, I mean, I think we can keep simmering on ideas and those kind of things, but let's all try to come to the next meeting
Definitely.
with that bullet list of what are we thinking about in the scope, or, you know, I like the idea of putting it out there as a request for bid. That way we get back a wide variety of things and to judge from, but we need to help the trust figure out what to put in that scope. And we're thinking about things like marketing, branding, help me out. So what was the other thing?
I think all falls under the marketing, branding,
Right.
you know, the billboards, the social media, and
I think he was the management, like the
projects, the management of the whole project.
Yeah, oversight, project management. I mean, at the end of the day, I need somebody, I've run campaigns in Newberry, I've never run a county-wide campaign. So I know there are people out there that know how to effectively do that, and I've seen people run county-wide campaigns that were not very effective. So, somebody knows the difference between what makes something work and what makes something that doesn't. And, we're gonna meet next in Opioid on March 8th at 5:30.
They're always 5:30.
Second Wednesday of the month, second Wednesday of the month, 5:30.
I think it's exciting. I'm sorry I missed the first one, but I think it's great. I think anything we can do
It was
to.
a terrible storm, terrible.
It was, I walked out, it was
Yeah.
pouring lightning, it was, there was no
I
way.
went like by 3 accidents, when I was like, this is a terrible idea, I'm gonna die. Can we just go down for any final thoughts? Mark, start us off, final thoughts, things you want us to, and I should say, if you have something that you want on the agenda for now, is it you, Marcia, who should we email? Marcia. And you can either email me or text me, and I'll handle that for you, right? I'm here, I'm not a voting member of this board, but I'm here to work, right? So, feel free to say, hey, put this on the agenda, and I will get with Marcia to do that. So, Mark, you got anything, any other thoughts, final thoughts?
I have no thoughts, but I just want to say thanks everybody for caring and being here tonight.
Ms. Hartwell, do you have any comments?
Actually, I just have a question because I was thinking about where these drugs, a lot of them, I agree with you, grandparents, parents have these in their medicine cabinet. When these things are prescribed, I mean, is there any way to get the word out when prescriptions are given? Who would have ever thought that, yes, your 10-year-old kid might take one of your pills and go sell it? I mean, how do you get the word out to people who are actually getting the drugs?
I think that's one of the main differences between marijuana and crack and pills, is that a lot of times it's the doctor that gives it to you.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, in our office, they have to sign a contract if we giving them an opioid. And every 3 months, they have to come in, they have to do blood testing and all of this. And if they continue to, say, call in a prescription before it should be over, our doctor kind of said, call them in, said, are you having a problem, are you addicted? And some of them, we have to let go to a pain management that they can have more counseling with us. That's our doctor's office.
Yeah.
And then some of them, if they were taking some and they didn't think it was working or it wasn't good enough, or they had some kind of side effects, because some people do have problems when they do take opioids. That's why this is very, it was compelling to me, because I see where some of the seniors have an addiction and want to see how it mangles together. So, in our office, we can kind of monitor that they have it. But then you have I have this other doctor that we know, that my cousin, they just had to wean their mother off, because she'll go in and be there less than 15 minutes, and he just write a prescription.
Right, well,
So,
so, I mean, I'm thinking, several years ago, I had a minor surgery, and I was given an opioid. I took one, and, nope, not doing that again. But, that was sitting on my shelf for probably 2 or 3 years. And, I mean, I have grandchildren who come in and out. I'm just thinking of just people who don't even do any of this on a regular basis, or even take pills on a regular basis, things. How do we educate those people? Because I think that's one target that we could hit. Because I am struggling with, how do you educate 5th graders on, because here's the other part of that. You know, the story you're telling, you know, a fifth grader can sell a pill for $5. We tell fifth graders that, you know what, they're gonna go home and look for pills, and they go
Yeah.
out and sell for $5. You know, that's kind of,
Yeah, you can't give them the idea.
no, but I mean, so much of what you talked about tonight, it's been very thought-provoking for me, you know, and we did, after I went to a meeting in Newberry, we actually discussed this with our PTA and with our SAC. So the parents we discussed it with were, you know, again, surprised to hear that this is something that actually happens. But, you know, just getting the word out to people very innocently. No, your child may not be a drug addict, but your child may want $5 to spend at Snowy Gator. And that's the way they're getting it, you know?
Right.
So,
Without even really knowing that it's a bad,
no, exactly.
Yeah.
right?
They just know. And then some of the pharmacies track it because some of these people, this is their thing.
Yeah.
So some pharmacies track if you don't went to one or two doctors and getting opioid prescriptions. It can be tracked, and then they will deny it. And the ones that you can kind of tell that they having a problem, if they call in like 10 days till that prescription should be over, and they're, oh, well, I need it, I've been in pain, and da 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 da. And some of them you really have to deal with. We have a social worker that we bring in, and see, every doctor, I got to praise my own farm, because every doctor office is not like our doctor's office, because we kind of really track. Some doctor offices don't. The ones that don't, and you got to blame the pharmacies too, because they fill them.
Right. And that's where, you know, it's almost like, is there a flyer that can go out with every prescription that, you know, people read or something, you know?
Those, that's how they can track them, like if they, because some people have multiple doctors.
Yeah.
And they try to get prescriptions from each one of those doctors. But the great thing about that insurance, sometimes they say, we don't pay for this one time. We're not paying. And that's how some of them do get caught. When it comes to money, and the insurances have to pay for it, then that's how some of them do get caught and kind of get some help.
Right.
But stuff like that, but yeah.
So the other thing I was thinking, as far as Rad Kids, which schools have adopted that? Do you know off the top of your head?
We had Newberry Elementary.
We had a representative there.
We had Archer, and I'm gonna have to ask Gary for the, so we had 17 people at that meeting.
Right.
There were 3 schools that were gonna get covered, and with 2 people in each school. And then we had SROs that were doing the training, and we had parents that were willing to float between the schools. So Gary Gallup is ASO deputy. It is Richard. They got great hair fixing. He works for Latch County Sheriff's Office, and he's over the juvenile department. And so he is working. Newberry has paid him directly to organize the moving of the parents who are willing to float to come in and help coach and train. So Rad Kids is a 2-year program. They either do first and third or second and fourth. As a refresher as you're going. It can be all done in like a 3-day period of time. It can be stretched out over 2 weeks. You can work with the teacher to come in for 30 minutes, an hour here, or you can, set off aside and do it, all the way. But Micanopy's school is a 100% Rad Kid school. They have a 0% bullying a report. They have the data, right? This is the one that truly works. I think PBIS is great, but it's a different focus than Rad Kids. And so it's my hope to get Newberry to fund another class. It's $15,000 a class. They can put 20 people in a class, because you have to have 2 teachers. It doesn't have to be teachers. It could be a custodian. It could be a coach. It could be anybody, right? But you need 2 people on campus. And what generally happens is a school will become a Rad Kid school, but then a teacher will leave and transfer out.
Right.
And then they lose their status. So I'm hoping that, because it's got to be a ripple effect, right? We were just not successful at getting the school board. The school board has put all their energy into PBIS right now, and they see all this as kind of a competing program. And they weren't hearing me say, this really isn't competition. These are things that kind of go, positive behavior intervention is about my day-to-day, you know, being able to, rad kids is about being able to identify this person is trying to harm me, whether that's with a pill or get me in a van. And it teaches me, you know, poke them in the eyes, you know, kick them in the groin, run away, right? Grab somebody else. I'm not sure if I answered your question.
Yeah, but I guess I would like to, for all the schools that are involved, because we have one person who was trained, and then just trying to figure out how to work it into the curriculum of the day.
I'll tell
We were
Gary
not
to reach out
successful.
to you.
Yeah, but even if, you know, the principals of all the schools who have the program, you know, if there's a way to get
Right.
us all together, just to, you
Absolutely, good
know,
idea.
because I think it's a great program, but just, we need help and assistance in how to make it work.
Well, and he is being paid to do that. So I will tell him to, reach out to you and get the other coach to come over, because that's the nice thing about having some retired parents do it.
Yeah.
They can come in anytime.
Yeah.
I mean, I get, the school board has a trouble right now, it's hard to get subs. So if it's the teacher doing it, well then, now that I have to have a sub to cover that kid, that teacher's
Right.
class. Well, but I'll have Gary reach out to you.
Okay, thank you. And I'm sorry, I was just, you know,
No,
I'm very
great
excited
question.
about
Yeah,
getting started with this.
that's exactly,
Does Rad Kids have a trainer model?
they do, and I think Gary is trained to do that. So,
I'd like to know some more information on it. Can you email me?
Uh-huh,
Give me
yeah,
some
yeah.
stuff. And the video from last time where we were talking about. The video about the fentanyl and the opioid.
Oh, yes. Did I not ever email that out?
Nah.
Yeah, I found it, I did find it the other day. All right, after that, I found it, and then I never emailed the link.
Yeah.
I'll have to find it again now. Yeah,
I wasn't gonna talk about you.
yeah.
That's all my.
I
comment.
just showed that about, it's probably that meeting that inspired me to show it again to the kids. And the video she's talking about is one I showed to the kids. And it has one dad's, it's parents who have lost kids to addiction who weren't addicts. So these were kids who went to a party, they just graduated and they were trying to have a good time. They weren't all the time users. And one dad, he shows a vial of how much cocaine you'd have to take to kill you, right? And the whole vial's full. How many pills you'd have to take to kill you, the whole vial's full. When he gets down to fentanyl, you have to zoom in on the vial to see the microscopic amount that could kill you. But I will send that to you. You have to have a box of tissues, because it's a sad. Right. Mary, you got anything you want?
I don't, thanks for waiting on me.
I'm just excited, so
Wonderful.
I'm ready to dive in and start really figuring out where to hone in and come up with a plan, so.
Ms. Chris, you got anything?
No.
You excited?
I'm
I
excited.
am, I'm excited too.
I am excited, and I'm just so grateful. I mean, I'm grateful for each of your communities honing up the funding to do this. I'm grateful for the trust. The trust really is what made all this work. You know, that was the centerpiece that kind of brought us all together. And so I am grateful. I'm excited as well. And do you have anything you want to add?
No,
You
you
should have
guys are
the
doing
whole
a great
thing.
job.
And there's dinner out there.
Yeah,
so-
I took dinner, so please,
Yeah.
I'll be offended if she.
Well, I'll make you another couple sandwiches for sure.
Just.
Yeah.
I cook the way I cook.
Motion
Yes,
to
motion
adjourn.
to adjourn.
We are adjourned. What do we need to do to help shut all this down?
Nothing.
Our great Deanna will come
She'll
back
come
out,
and do,
our queen bee.
all right.
So with this kind of thing, Jordan, for the, like, if, I didn't want